Right, everyone. Last Fireside Chat. We're even further away from the fire this side, as Tanya told you. And our last guest is someone that has experienced many things and is here to talk about the baton that he wants to pass on through a very creative mechanism. At the early start of his career, in his early 20s, he was a carer and spent a lot of time looking after others. While he was doing this, he was scribbling on the side, and that scribbling has led him to be an author. He has written 5 books in total. Dear Bill Bryson, where he followed Bill Bryson around the country for no good reason. A chip shop in Poznan, Poland, wherein he worked in a fish and chip shop in Poland. The Gran Tour, which involved 6 budget coach holidays with people much his senior. I'm like how he didn't say old. The Marmalade Diaries, which involved him moving in with an 85-year-old widow on the eve of national lockdown. Oh. Here Comes the Fun, which takes a playful look at the serious business of having a laugh. Tonya, don't get that one. And so I would like to invite on stage an author and someone that is passionate about giving back and sharing stories, Ben Aitken. Also, Ben, like the footwear. It's a running theme today.
I like your shoes. Can we swap afterwards, maybe?
What size are you?
11.
No.
No.
I'm size 7, unfortunately. So firstly, I've been to Poznan, and my wife calls me a nickname, Cider Chips. That's not a joke. Everywhere I go, I like to order a cider chips. So tell me about a chip shop in Poznan. What on earth led to you writing a book about my favourite things and Poznan, the university city in Poland?
I went to Poland because everybody was coming in this direction, and I wanted to know what the Poles were leaving behind. And reading the papers and watching the news, they weren't getting a great press, the Poles in Britain. So I thought I'd go over to Poland, live there for a year, get a job on the minimum wage, and maybe just send back a long postcard that complicates the picture a little bit and breaks down certain stereotypes, and also, you know, skill up in the kitchen a bit. So I think I was sort of typecast. Somebody saw me, heard that I was British, said, right, we've got a fish and chip shop, you must be great at it, come on. In the event, I was terrible.
I'm a Brummie, and I was brought to Wolverhampton when I met my wife. I mean, I came here by my own free will. And there is a big debate in Wolverhampton, orange chips or not orange chips, Ben?
Yeah. I went down, is it, where's the place down where there's a market down south, begins with B, south of Wolverhampton?
Bilston.
I went down there when I was last in Wolverhampton, and there's a famous chip shop where you can get some orange chips.
And what do you think?
And I was dead excited, and it's dodgy when you're excited because you can be let down. But these orange chips surpassed my expectations. Really? I ordered 2 portions of them. 2? Crikey. And I said to Mr. Major, why are your chips orange? And he said, I don't know. As if it was they were just God-given.
Yeah, they are. Apparently it's one of the things that you get put in your passport when you arrive in Wolverhampton. The ability to buy
They put a chip in the passport.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Squash it. Gotcha. But long story short, I went to Poland to have a look, have a butcher's, have a mooch around, and then just get some notes down and hopefully get a book published. That was my first book that I managed to get published, so
well done.
I was chuffed.
And a lot of the books that you've done have an element or a basis in travel, apart from the Marmalade Diaries, but I'm sure that's a travel in a different way. And you talk about travel and curiosity. So tell me a little bit more about the curiosity of UK to Poland, not Poland to UK. Tell me more about that across the other books.
Curiosity?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's important. There's another travel writer, a guy called, God, I forget his name now, Jeff Dyer. He said, we are here to go somewhere else. And I'm not sure if he meant just round to the Tesco around the corner, but I think there's an energy in everybody to explore, to examine, to venture. And on occasion, that energy will be squashed and oppressed and handicapped somewhat, and that's not ideal. But if you've got the ability and means to go and have a look and explore different countries, towns, villages, streets, people. You know, that's all good. It sort of extends our field of interest and affection, because the more you know, it tends to sort of come with familiarity, like breeds less contempt, but and more affection in my case. Do you know what I mean? Like, so that's what motivates me to just go and have a look and step towards new experiences and people.
Fabulous. One thing that I definitely was magnetised by was the fact that you had an early career as being a carer, and to fund some of my academia, I was a carer in Chester, and it really gave me a totally different view on lived experience and how we treat people at different stages in life. And that leads me to the Marmalade Diaries, as to you actually living with an more senior person, and so how do those two things relate to how you see the world now, being a carer and spending time with someone from a very different generation?
I think we've heard today lots of interesting talks, and one was about how our childhood's so formative, and my mum was a carer, and I think just by being exposed to something, subconsciously an idea or a notion is being planted and downloaded. It's cool. It's good to look after others. It's something to aspire to. So I think that seed was planted, and I helped out a guy called Anthony who has cerebral palsy for about 10 years, and I think that sort of strengthened that seed, and maybe sort of a few sort of shoots started to appear. And then I went on the Gran Tour, no D, so 6 coach holidays with older people, and I discovered that I enjoyed them far more than my contemporaries, because less in common, more ground to cover. Less in common, more fat to chew on. We had some great conversations. I enjoyed learning all about people like Ted Heath and Margaret Thatcher, and the bingo in the evenings. Anyway, I had a great time, and that experience gave me the confidence to move in with an older person. So I was in London looking for a room, and they can be flipping expensive. And so when one popped up on the internet for 150 quid, I thought, what's the catch? And the catch was my housemate, Winnie, 85, difficult in plenty of ways. 10 days later, national lockdown, so it's fair to say we spent more time with each other than was perhaps ideal. But I learned something about caring. I learned something about love. She would always have love on the tip of her tongue, but could never quite push it off in the direction of the people that she loved, like her children. So she'd say the nicest things about her kids as soon as she'd put the phone down. And so I learned something from that. I made a point next time I saw my mum, because I could see myself in Winnie, not being able to get that affection out for some strange reason, whether you feel vulnerable expressing love. And so I made a point next time I saw my mum, when she dropped me off at the train station, I said, yeah, I love you, Mum. I don't think I can imagine living in a world without you. And I felt embarrassed to put that across, and, you know, she sort of blushed and shed a tear. But it's weird. We should be more fluent and articulate with our deepest, most important emotions. And I think that's something I accidentally learned living with Winnie. And I think I've answered about 3 questions there rather than the
Absolutely.
one you asked.
And I think a lot of us listen to learn, and I think there have been more recent people that have an opportunity to be on a stage that are teaching us things that maybe we need to take off the stage, such as celebrate your funeral before it happens, say the things that you don't want to be in your memoirs, ensure that people hear it from you rather than others. And that's made me really reflect on that and think about actually who are the people that we forget to say things to, or who do we assume knows and we actually have never confirmed it for them. Which leads me on to, when looking at your books and your background, you have a really key thing on affordability and perception of money, but also freeness and how you can get things for free, and communicating love or thanks or appreciation is free to say, but comes with a lot of emotions sometimes. So if we move that on to affordability and perception of money, that can often tie us in knots, right?
I think, and I guess that I've always gone after a bargain because I've never had any money. You know, that's a motivator, isn't it? So everybody needs a job, and I knew I wanted to have enough time to scribble some notes. And I started working in a restaurant, and it could be 60 hours a week. And by the end of the week, all your juice is gone, or your mojo has been expunged, and you haven't got that energy to work on your side hustle, your thing on the side. So I found a job that allowed me to do the thing on the side, and that was working as a carer, because it was 3 days, but they were stuck together. So it was like 72 hours work flat, minimum wage, but it meant you had 4 days a week to scribble. And so moving on to the coach holidays, they were an absolute bargain. You know, I was genuinely keen to explore the UK, travel, and I found out about these holidays. It was 109 quid for 4 nights in a charming coastal hotel in Scarborough. 3-course meal every evening, cooked breakfast in the morning, bingo every night, entertainment, excursions to York, Whitby, 109 quid for the lot with your return coach travel. I worked out I could live on such a holiday and save money compared to what I was spending on my room in London. So I did 6 back to back, and that became the book. Because really I'm after value for money, you know, life experiences for little money. And when I moved in with Winnie, it was an economic decision as well as I don't know.
But affordability for you is key, isn't it? It's that you don't have to spend money on lots of things, hence why you've looked at the seriousness of fun and laughter, that you don't have to pay for things in this society, and sometimes we forget that. So talk to me a little bit more about the seriousness of fun and laughter.
So my latest book is about fun, what it is, what it does to the brain, whether we're getting enough of that. I'm not an authority, so it's not a definitive or authoritative account at all. I've done my homework, I've done the research, that's woven into the experiences. So basically, there are 50 attempts to have fun in the book, from cheerleading to the cryptic crosswords, cold water swimming. I went on a pilgrimage. There's laughing yoga. Have you heard of laughing yoga?
I have.
Would you like to demonstrate?
No.
So basically, this is my understanding, you crack up on purpose, maybe in front of the mirror, and the pretense tricks the brain, and it rewards all of those positive hormones as if you were genuinely finding something hilarious. And if you wanted to amplify the experience, you can get a bunch of mates together in a safe space and take it in turns to wet yourself, and by the end of it, you know, people are genuinely creasing themselves. So that's something I had to go with. Like, I did a bunch of things and wove the sort of research into it. But what I would like to emphasize is that a lot of it didn't cost a thing, because that's important. You don't have to have deep pockets. You don't need to have masses of disposable time or cash in order to have small moments of joy or merriment, whatever word you want to use to describe this slippery, vague thing that we call fun, which maybe gets overlooked, because there are books out there, hundreds, about happiness, fear, sadness. You know, fun is perhaps a little bit overlooked, and it's so linked to well-being. Yep. It doesn't share any space with other emotions. So if you're having fun, you can't be stressed. And stress is, you know, not ideal. You know, it can take years off your life. And so if we can find our own way, you know, everybody's going to be different when it comes to fun. It's a very subjective thing, so it's not easy to plan or prescribe. Like, I must have asked 1,000 people, what do you do for fun? One person said, walking around Aldi in just an anorak.
I agree. I mean, the middle aisle, yeah.
Personally, I'd do it in Waitrose, but... And somebody else said, what I do for fun, I like watching Andy Murray in the bath. And I didn't know who's in the bath in this situation. Andy Murray... But you ask 1,000 people, you get 1,000 responses. So you've got to gain a sense or grip on what pleases you. I met a lad earlier, it's medieval reenactment. He likes putting all the armour on, getting a joust, getting out there, reenacting the Battle of Tewkesbury. You know, whatever.
Ben, don't speak to my son for too long, otherwise you'll get involved in other things, okay? But one of the points of that is that actually that is a baton that we can pass on fun and laughter and cheering people up and giving people a sense in their day is something that's easy to do. You don't have to do it verbally. You can do it through body language. You can do it through written means. And I think that is something that we've got to remember in this day and age, that actually don't take the childhood out of your adulthood. Remember to laugh and smile and enjoy your journey. And one of those journeys was to Wolverhampton, was it not? You recently visited this city outside of TEDxWolverhampton, and why was that, Ben?
I'm working on a book that's coming out next year, and I visited the least visited cities in the UK, measured by Visit Britain.
Just say that again to the Wolverhampton audience.
Believe it or not, Wolverhampton is in that dozen. So I went to 12 different places: Sunderland, Preston, Wolverhampton, and the stats are compiled by Visit Britain. So they're measuring how many people go somewhere of a weekend, willingly, recreationally, not to work, not to
willingly.
Willingly.
Yeah, okay.
And rightly or wrongly, Wolverhampton's getting overlooked. And I would say wrongly. So I came here for a weekend, and this was last December. I had a great time. I had a decent curry, had a decent mixer. What's that called? A tandoor, like when you do a mixer at the Desi pub. I had one of those.
Mixed grill.
Went to the Panto, almost got kicked out of the Panto.
At the Grand?
At the Grands.
That's gross.
Because I was a bloke on my own, that looked a bit dodgy. And
was that after the orange chips from Bilston? That's probably why.
That was, yeah. I did have a portion of orange chips in my pocket as well, so I looked a bit daft. But the idea with this book is not to go to these places and say and poke fun or take the biscuit. You know, it's actually to say anywhere, like anyone, can be interesting. It's just a matter of how you attend to them, how you approach them, what questions you ask of that place, of that person, being prepared to listen and engage rather than, you know, be defensive or stuck in the mud about, you know, what things are valuable and what things aren't.
So you're working on that book now, but what's one of the things that you took away from your short time in Wolverhampton?
Basically, it's just a really sound place that it's not getting the love that it needs. And there's a pattern that I started to notice on my travels. Preston next to Manchester, Sunderland next to Newcastle, Bradford next to Leeds. It's easy to get overlooked. It's like certain cities, often with a post-industrial pedigree, have just been put out to pasture a little bit and said, well, yeah, we're focusing on this city. Just, yeah, best of luck, eh? And they'll chuck you some new paving now and again, or a statue, or a new ministry. You've got the Department of Levelling Up here. And a city needs visitors. It needs that extra superfluous injection of cash. And if it's not getting that, you know, you can't, the residents of Wolverhampton can't do it on their own. They can't be the ones to prop up all of these independent businesses and whatnot. It needs a visitor economy. And in order to get that, the messaging needs to shift a little bit. And so my book is an attempt to sort of just move the dial a little bit on that messaging, because the city needs to be framed differently, I think. It needs to disassociate from old ideas about what it is. And I think I've, again, answered two questions instead of the one you've asked.
That's wonderful. A couple of more things from me. We spoke today at TEDxWolverhampton about passing the baton, not knowing what you don't know, being inclusive, being an ally, being brave. And so why on earth did you follow Bill Bryson around the country for no good reason?
Bill Bryson, so if anybody doesn't know, he's like the Pele of travel writing. Right? He's retired now, which is great. But he wrote a brilliant book about 25 years ago called Notes from a Small Island. So he travelled around Britain and had a look. And my first book, I wasn't meaning to write a book. I'm quite lazy, really, and I couldn't be bothered to plan my own route. So I just took this book that I'd quite enjoyed and followed it almost exactly. So I went to the same pubs, same cafes, spent the same amount of time in the bath, same Chinese restaurants. I put on the same amount of weight as he did, and I ended up at his house. And he'd moved since, so I had to go to his new house, which was in Norfolk. He wasn't in, so I had to jump over the fence to put this little note through the door saying, "Hello, Bill. Fancy a cup of tea, compare notes." And he wrote back kindly saying, "Piss off." We've never met, but I've now got a tattoo here. I don't know if you can see it. It says, "I love Bill." I was trying to raise some money for a self-published book, Dear Bill Bryson, and to incentivise backers, you have to say you'll do daft stuff. Like if we get to £10,000, you know, I'll run to the moon or whatever. And I said, if we get to £5,000, I'll get "I love Bill" tattooed on my chest, thinking we'd never get there. And my mate chucked in £800 at the last minute to make sure we got there. And then he was there documenting the tattoo. I've never.
So we've also spoke about mentors today, so I take that friend is no longer a good mentor of
Yeah,
yours.
no,
But
I
anyway.
took the baton off him and gave it to someone else.
So, lastly, Ben, you are a storyteller. You like to put that into black and white, into books and into words, so that people can continue those stories. Leave us with why storytelling is so important to you.
Why is it so important? Well, I wasn't even conscious that it was, but thank you for the observation. I can tell you one story before we leave. It's a daft one, but that's okay because, you know, we need doses of daftness in our life because our overwhelming orientations, our everyday orientations are deadly serious, purposeful. So when things are beside the point, I should stop introducing the story, shouldn't I? I should just tell the story. So basically I got a bit of feedback from a reader about the latest book, and they said, I reckon this book might have saved my life. I was like, really? This one about fun? It was meant to be, you know. And I was thinking, oh, well, yeah, maybe like stress, fun, well-being, it's all linked up, yeah. And the message went on. It said, yeah, I'm one of these people that likes to walk and read at the same time. And I'm pretty sure if your book hadn't have softened the blow, that lamppost would have been the end of me. And I think they were taking the mickey out of me. But nonetheless, that's an example of a story that is completely inconsequential.
They might not have been taking them, Michael. I think there's CCTV footage of me getting off a train, looking at my phone and walking into Welcome to the City of Wolverhampton on platform 1.
And how was that for you?
It hurt. So I think there's lots of things that save us or don't save us. So, Ben, thank you ever so much. There are 5 books out there that Ben has written. He will be with us for a little bit longer today. Ben, thank you for sharing your stories. Thank you for in making sure that we understand fun and laughter, and that you have made me want to go back to Poznan and see if they do any gyps. But Ben, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks, Steve.